Gay marriage. A Gallup poll conducted in 2017 found that 648 out of 1,011 people surveyed supported same-sex marriage. An NBC News Wall Street Journal poll conducted in the same year surveyed 1,200 people and found that 720 supported same-sex marriage. Find both sample proportions and compare them. So we'll start with the Gallup poll. In the Gallup poll, we had a total of 648 out of 1,011 people surveyed supporting gay marriage, which gives us a sample proportion of 0.64 or 64%. For the NBC Wall Street Journal poll, we had 720 people supporting same-sex marriage out of 1,200 people surveyed, which gives us a sample proportion of 0.60 or 60%. So we can see that the two polls had different sample proportions. Test the hypothesis that the population proportions are not equal at the 0.05 significance level. We'll start by writing our null and alternative hypothesis. So our null hypothesis would be that the population proportions are the same. And our alternative hypothesis is that the population proportions are significantly different. In our second step, we'll choose an approach. So we're going to be using a two-proportion z-test, and we'll check the conditions. So first, we'll make sure that the sample sizes were sufficiently large. We'll compute p-hat, which represents the total number of people who supported gay marriage, 648 in one poll, plus 720 in the second, divided by the total number of people surveyed, which was 1,011 in the first poll, plus 1,200 in the second poll, which gives us a p-hat value of 0.62. And so we'll show that our first sample size times p-hat and our first sample size times 1 minus p-hat are both greater than 10. So 1,011 times 0.62 and 1,011 times 1 minus 0.62, in other words 0.38, and we can see that these values are greater than 10. Our second sample size similarly will show that that is sufficiently large. So our second sample size was 1,200, so 1,200 times 0.62 and 1,200 times 0.38. These are also greater than 10, so our sample sizes were sufficiently large, and we'll assume that our samples are random and independent. In step number 3, we already have a significance level of 0.05. But we need to compute our test statistic and our p-value. And to do this, normally we would use technology, so I'm going to demonstrate how to do this using StatCrunch. To find our test statistic and p-value using StatCrunch, we would come to Stat, Proportion Stats, Two Samples, with Summary. For sample 1, we'll enter the data from the Gallup poll, which was 648 people out of 1,011 surveyed. And in sample 2, we'll enter our NBC Wall Street Journal poll, which was 720 people out of 1,200. We're conducting a hypothesis test, and here we'll confirm the sign in our alternative hypothesis is a not equal sign, and we'll compute. And we receive our test statistic and p-value here. So we have a test statistic of 1.97 and a p-value of 0.048. So our p-value was 0.048 and our test statistic was 1.97, and we need to compare our p-value with our significance level. And we can see that our p-value is less than our significance level, which would lead us to reject our null hypothesis. And if we reject our null hypothesis, then we could conclude that there is a significant difference in the population proportions. So our conclusion is that our evidence suggests the population proportions are not equal.